What if the version of American history you have been told is missing some of the most important voices? Before we dive into the full story, comment where you are watching from and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because once you look beyond the myths, you will discover a side of American Revolution that many history books fail to mention.
For everyone genuinely believing Western media propaganda about what's going on in Iran, they lied to you about Vietnam with the Gulf of Tonkin incident used to justify war. They lied to you about South Africa by supporting apartheid for years and calling it stability. They lied about Kuwait with false testimony to sell the Gulf War. They lied about Iraq. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They lied about Afghanistan. Internal documents, which you can access yourself, showed officials knew the war was not winnable. That progress was being exaggerated to the public for years. We struggled in Afghanistan. They lied to you about Colombia under the guise of war on drugs while fueling violence against Colombians. They lied about Venezuela through sanctions and narratives around intervention. They lied about Libya, claiming it was about protecting civilians, and it turns into a regime change. They lied to you about Syria, constantly shifting narratives around who we were actually supporting. They lied to you about Yemen while backing a humanitarian crisis. They lied about the DRC, ignoring and enabling exploitation and genocide tied to resources. They lied about Sudan, downplaying involvement and strategic interests. They lied to you about Palestine, framing occupation and violence as self-defense. What on earth makes you think they are telling you the truth about Iran? The United States loves to talk about how Iran can't have weapons, but who gave them to them? You ever heard of the Iran-Contra affair in the 1980s? The United States secretly sold weapons to Iran, even though we publicly considered Iran an enemy. And we had an arms embargo in place. They were not supposed to have weapons. And then they took the money they got from selling those weapons and illegally funded a war in Nicaragua behind the Congress and the public's back. Became one of the biggest scandals in political history, triggered congressional investigations, led to indictments, convictions of multiple officials. No? And all while this is even still happening, Iran was still treated like an enemy publicly. So if that happened then, what makes you think everything happening now is being fully told to you? Open your eyes.
Let's talk about what Trump just did. He's the most powerful man on earth, and he used a televised address to stand at Mount Rushmore and tell people that saying America was built on stolen land is spreading Marxist lies.
As for those who peddle Marxist lies about our heritage, who tell our children that we live on stolen land or that our heroes were oppressors, they're doing something much worse than slandering our past. They are slandering and attacking our future. Not going to let that happen. They're trying to tear down the great American character, to destroy the people who declared independence.
Let's play. The Black Hills he was literally standing on, the Supreme Court ruled in 1980 that the U.S. stole them illegally. They ordered payment. The Sioux Nation said, keep it. You can't buy back what was never for sale. So when Trump says stolen land is a myth, his own government's highest court already proved him wrong. But it's bigger than that one mountain. America was built on genocide. Millions of indigenous people, historians say somewhere between 5 and 15 million, were in America before contact. By 1900, that number was driven down to about 250,000. That's not a tragedy that just happened. That was policy. Boarding schools, massacres, starvation used as a weapon, broken treaty after broken treaty. That's genocide. And then he had the nerve to call it the greatest country to ever exist. Well, let's talk about how it got that way. Native people taught starving colonists how to survive winters in America. 3/5 of the food that the entire world eats today, corn, potatoes, tomatoes, came from indigenous farming. Native code talkers helped with 2 world wars. America didn't get great despite Native people. It got great because of them. Then it tried to wipe them out for the thanks. And guess what? Didn't work. Native people are still here, still sovereign, still proud. Trump can carve his monuments into indigenous mountains all he wants. It doesn't rewrite the receipts. It was genocide. It's stolen land. Deal with it.
Okay, just watch this. Donald Trump is screaming lies about massive crowds at his so-called Great American State Fair. He claims 150,000 people show up there every single day, but that's complete nonsense. The truth is brutally different. Aerial images revealed tiny, pathetic turnouts that enraged Trump so much his own regime officials deleted them. Empty stages, hosted podcasts to virtually non-existent crowds. Disappointed attendees called it terrible, nothing like a real state fair, with no cows, sheep, goats, or real energy, just a bland political ad pushing Trump's vanity projects. CNN reported, the Trump regime is deeply troubled by the anemic showing, with tumbleweeds basically rolling across the National Mall. Multiple stages sat largely empty while workers abandoned stations due to heat and power issues. Trump keeps blaming his staff and raging over the small crowds, but the embarrassing reality exposes his desperate exaggerations. This isn't a great American anything, it's a flop that highlights how out of touch and dishonest Donald Trump truly is.
This is in the heritage of our country because America was founded. Look at Thomas Jefferson writing to Madison in revolt of British aristocracy. The American Revolution was against the billionaires of their time.
Look, I might have to start a playlist debunking AOC because she's just out here. She's just out here saying whatever. Like what? Oh my. Okay, hold on. Let me Okay, let me get myself together. All right, I'm together. What she's saying is not fair or accurate. The American Revolution was primarily about taxation without representation. We learned this in school. For example, you had taxes like the Stamp Act, the Townshend Acts, and the Tea Act, which imposed taxes to pay off British war debts. But these colonists had no representation in Parliament in the UK, or in England, sorry. So to kind of simplify it, the American Revolution was a revolt against a distant, unaccountable government who was taxing individuals, the American colonists, who was taxing them without them having representation in England. By the way, at that time, there was no equivalent to modern billionaires because all the power rested within the monarchy. Extreme wealth was tied to like lands, titles, and like crown privileges, literally from the monarch. She's trying to rewrite American history in order to get people to support socialism, essentially. Because if you listen to her, she'll lead you to believe that there was this, from the ground up revolt against the wealthy. That is not what happened. And this is funny because actually the opposite is what happened. The revolt was led by colonial elites. The key leaders were George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Hancock, James Madison. I'm going to read you a little bit about each of their backgrounds. George Washington obviously was the commander-in-chief, but he was a wealthy planter and landowner with thousands of acres. He was one of the richest men in the colonies. Thomas Jefferson, a wealthy plantation owner and lawyer. Benjamin Franklin, a printer, scientist, diplomat, worked his way up through the ranks, became very wealthy. John Hancock, extremely wealthy merchant. I could keep going. The reality is the opposite of what AOC is trying to get people to believe. She's trying to act like this was a ground-up revolt against the wealthy. No, this was a revolt led by colonial elites against an unaccountable government that was taxing them without giving them representation. And she's trying to get people to believe that it's American to attack billionaires and want socialism. It is not. Do not let her lie to you. Anyway, don't forget I have a free email newsletter. I send that out every morning around 7 a.m. Central. The link is in my profile.
Peter Thiel built the network. Leonard Leo captured the courts. Together, they put their people in power. Now here's what they're doing with it, and it starts with your job. Sam Altman spent years funding massive experiments on UBI, Universal Basic Income. Now he's changed his tune. He says he no longer believes in UBI. Instead, he's pushing for collective ownership, giving you a stake in his AI systems. Don't be fooled. Whether it's Zuckerberg, Musk, and Dorsey still selling UBI, or Altman selling ownership in his compute, the goal is identical. They're replacing your independent livelihood with a tether to their bottom line. Altman's own $60 million study proved UBI doesn't stop job displacement. It showed recipients work slightly less and mostly spent the cash on basic necessities. Now he's pivoted to collective ownership, a system where you own a tiny piece of the AI that replaced you. A journal that studies AI called it out. Their advocacy isn't about safety nets. It's about buying your silence. It's designed to gain public acceptance for AI's dominance under the guise of universal benefit. They tell us AI creates better, more fulfilling work. They tell us these safety nets are compassionate. That's the lie. AI is replacing workers, not eventually, now. Lawyers, doctors, writers, coders, accountants. Their work was scraped without consent to train models that do it faster, cheaper, and without benefits. Goldman Sachs projects 300 million jobs lost this decade. These safety nets are pressure release valves designed to keep you quiet, dependent, and predictable. The Romans called it bread and circuses. Keep the population fed, and they won't notice they've lost their freedom. When they control your income, your platforms, and your livelihood, they control you, not through force, through dependency. You don't need guards when people have nowhere else to go. You're not a citizen anymore. You're a permanent customer. That's the labor trap. Mass unemployment doesn't just destroy jobs, it destroys your ability to fight back. And while they offer you a stipend with one hand, the tech industry has spent hundreds of millions on lobbying to stop AI regulation. They're buying the politicians who guarantee you have no other options. But here's what they didn't count on. Workers are organizing. Writers, actors, and programmers have already taken them to court and won. States like Illinois, California, Colorado, and Connecticut have already passed laws to restrict or regulate how AI is used to replace humans. Communities are blocking data centers. In Maryland, Georgia, and Wisconsin, ordinary people are pushing back against land seizures. The resistance isn't coming. It's already here. In our next part, we reveal the darkest part of this plan, what they've already written about what happens to the people they consider permanently useless. Follow so you don't miss it.
So we have a little bit more update for you guys. My wife know a little bit more about it, so I'm gonna let her do some more talking.
Hey guys, so I don't know if you saw our earlier post. We were talking about the war and talking about Taiwan.
How the American government is lying to the people in America.
Okay, so we've been in China for almost 2 weeks now, and there is no war. We talked about this in our other posts between China and Taiwan, but we found out from a lot of residents here that the president of China has sent planes to Iran to pick up the Taiwan people. So this is how much garbage and anxious, and they're trying to get the American people all stirred up. That is amazing. Not only, we're not at war with Taiwan, and this is the safest country. We have traveled so much around the world.
Yep.
And this is the safest country we have ever been into. People are like, it's communist, don't come here. There's no white Americans here. There's no tourism from America because they're brainwashing us out there.
Yep, and even I am learning, like at the airport, when Chinese people are trying to go to America, the brainwash, the things that they put in their head about, blacks in America. Mm-hmm. They want you to be frightened. And
someone took a picture with us at the zoo because they were like, you guys are the first Americans we see out here. We have been to different hotels, different cities, have been traveling on the fast train from Shanghai to Beijing to Leshan to Chengdu, and there's no white Americans here because we are being brainwashed. This is safer than Mexico. Y'all want to go to the beaches of Mexico? Good luck.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get robbed. You're gonna get.
We are still jet lagged, and we wake up at 3 a.m. and walk down the street. The safest country.
Your dollar's gonna go far here. The food, the clothes.
The Uber ride for 15 minutes, 30 minutes is $2 American dollars. A 2-hour Uber drive here, what they call Didi, is $25. Like the food, you keep scanning, and your bank account isn't going that down. Like we've been doing so good out here. I love it.
It's great. It is great. But we'll keep you guys updated.
I'm seeing way too many Black Americans upset about the United Nations' most recent resolution, saying that reparations is for only Black Americans and it's lineage based. Have we lost our damn minds? When those ships left Africa, they didn't just stop in America. They went to Jamaica, the Virgin Islands, Brazil, and a couple of other places. And those people were also enslaved, not just us. So as a Black American, thank you Ghanaians for getting the world to recognize slavery as a crime against humanity, because it is. Thank you Ghanaians for getting the world to have more responsible conversations regarding reparations, because this is truly a very big step forward for the diaspora.
And that's what makes this story so powerful. The people history often pushed to the margins didn't just contribute to America, they helped define it. The real lesson isn't that America failed to live up to its dues. It's that generation after generation fought to make those deals real, and that's a legacy no one can erase. If this story tells us anything, it's that the struggle for freedom, equality, and opportunity has never belonged to one group alone. It belongs to everyone willing to fight for it. See you on the next one.